Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.
You are welcome along to Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie or follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing, hashtag every racing moment. Now later on we'll have the Racing Post's Richie Forristal on to discuss a very, very controversial Stewards' inquiry and outcome at Royal Ascot. But if you were at Royal Ascot, there was no happier man than the man who we're going to talk to now. And to borrow a Simpsons quote, who likes the Crosse brothers? Because we've got one of them. Not Nathan, who the winner last night at Leopardstown before the Lightning Seeds were on, but Shane, who rode an unbelievably good race on State of Rest, winning at Royal Ascot during the week in an epic Prince of Wales Stakes. Shane, it's a pleasure to have you on. How are you?
Very good, Johnny. Thanks very much for having me.
I was talking to, well, it's no thanks at all. I mean, you must be riding a crest for a wave. Like, will you ever ride a nicer race than that in a Group 1?
Yeah, no, unbelievable. And the answer is probably not. You know, it was a great day, and probably still dreaming. Yeah.
So I was talking to a lot of sort of good judges ahead of Royal Ascot. What do you do if you're riding a Royal Ascot? What sort of horses do you want to ride? And the consensus was you don't want to make the run. And it's very, very hard to make the run in a Royal Ascot. But in State of Rest, you had a horse who was genuine, who had lots of solid form, and you wanted to make the run. And can you explain what happened and why?
Yeah, look, he's never made the running before, but obviously it was a very small field, and myself and Joseph were obviously speaking Tuesday, and we walked the track Wednesday, and we decided to, you know, if we were able to get to the front, that we'd be happy to do it, and you know, we were drawn one, so probably the easiest and most straightforwardest way to win was probably to go from stall one. And look, it couldn't have worked out any smoother, I don't think. It worked out exactly how you know, Plan A would, and no, it was amazing. Brilliant.
Okay, so before we get to the race, I'm just looking at State of Rest form here, and he's a real anomaly of a horse in the sense of what he's achieved. He won his maiden at Fairyhouse in June of 2020. He then went 6 races without winning. He then won at Saratoga under John Velasquez, my cousin's favourite jockey over in the States. He then won in Moonee Valley in Australia. He then won in Longchamp in France. And under Shane Crosse, he was a somewhat unlucky third, I think, in the Tattersalls Gold Cup, a race that's worked out very well form-wise. And then he went into Ascot nearly bidding to win 5 Group 1s in 5 different countries. And if we can go back to the Curragh, is that a race you wish you got back?
Yeah, look, probably. You know, probably every race doesn't go your way, but I would have had liked to have been probably a position closer, and you know, we were just caught flat-footed as we swung into the straight, and you know, he was the closest at the line. So yeah, we were scratching our heads a little bit walking out of the Curragh that day, but obviously it was a huge run behind 2 very good horses again. But I thought the horse that you saw on Wednesday at Ascot was the proper State of Rest, and yeah, you know what a superstar he is.
So unbeknown to yourself, Kevin Blake is on Sky Sports Racing before the race, and they're saying to him, geez, Kev, there's a big gamble on this State of Rest, 9-1 into 6-1, and he said, well, there's no reason for it except for the fact that he's overpriced. I think 6-1 is too big. Were you getting the nerves, were you getting the butterflies as, you know, the race approached? 5-runner race, not in the stalls very long, and you're taking on a hot favourite in Bay Bridge.
Suppose, but leading up to the race, you know, not knowing what price he was, you know, I would never have thought that him being a 9-1 shot was what his actual price was. But you know, he definitely didn't feel that way leading into the race, and I thought that you know, we had a huge chance, and look, he duly obliged.
What did Joseph say to you beforehand in the parade ring?
Look, we had our kind of tactics worked out long time beforehand, so it was just running through the last few things. He left me with, you know, no question marks. We knew what we were doing, and he just left it all up to me. You know, he's brilliant in that way. He puts no pressure on you. We just try to keep things as straightforward as possible, and you know, just hope nothing goes wrong.
Talk to me from the first furlong to the wire, how the race went for you.
Yeah, so I was keen to get a good break, and he jumped very good. He's usually a good breaker, but he was electric on Wednesday, and I was able to let him roll down along the back straight into the bend, and I was able to string out the 4 horses behind me. Obviously, not knowing what had happened to Lord North and Frankie or whatsoever, but I was able to get a breather into him, and I got it pretty handy for the guts of the next 3 furlongs. And it's probably never likely that you're able to do that in such a big race like it was. And I was able to gradually come forward. Then when we turned into the straight, and he was the one that everyone had to catch, and it probably would have had to have taken a very good horse to try and to outrun him at that stage of a race. But it was brilliant.
How important is an uncontested lead?
Huge. I think it's probably every jockey's dream. If you can get in front and it goes your own way, 9 times out of 10, if your horse is good enough, it'll win.
Yeah, and so you don't have a clock, or you don't have a speedometer in front of you. How do you dictate fractions, knowing that it's so important not to go too fast on a horse, even with a soft lead who stays well? Is that something that's kind of innate in somebody, or is it something that you take time to learn from your experience? And I know you're only 20, so it's not like you're at this game long, but is that something that you get better at, or do you have it?
Yeah, look, by God means I'm no professional at it, but you do get used to it. You get used to your speeds, and from riding in a lot of races throughout the year and stuff, when you're going too fast, and when you're going too slow, and often than not, when your horse is comfortable and when they're not. And I always had state of rest comfortable underneath me, and I was happy everywhere. I was delighted with what he was doing underneath me, and when I asked him to stretch up the straight, I knew, even going down to the furlong pole, that I still had another gear to go to finish them off. So when everything is going to plan like that, and you have the horse relaxed underneath you and doing everything to 100%, it's huge.
Yeah, the comments in Running in the Racing Post: made all set steady pace, shaken up and increased tempo over 2 furlong out, ridden 1 furlong out, kept on well, always doing enough, 9-1 into 5-1. Just in relation to those comments, shaken up and increased tempo over 2 furlongs out, when do you know this is the time now that I have to ask? I can't hold on much longer, and I think I've enough in reserve here to win by length from Bay Bridge? Probably
I was expecting the Japanese horse to be nearly beside me turning. I didn't want him to be, obviously, but I was presuming that the Japanese horse would be putting pressure on me from over 3 furlongs out, because he gets 1.5 miles very well. And I was surprised to see no one challenging me as we swung into the straight. So I was able to sit for maybe half a furlong longer than I would have done. So that was a big surprise, and I was able to use his turn of foot then to go about and winning. But it'll probably never happen to him again, where you will get a race to go so straightforward, but that takes nothing away from the horse. I think the best horse won the day by a long way, and he was just brilliant.
What does it say about him then? As I said, he nearly won 5 Group or Grade 1s in different countries, which in succession, which, I'm not sure if any horse has ever done that. Maybe they have, but he was close to doing it.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I couldn't think off the top of my head of a horse that has done it. But I'm sure if any horse has done, they've been well known, and they're probably superstars, obviously. But for any horse to win 4 Group 1s, to win 1 is huge. To win 4 in 4 different countries, it takes a lot of, it just takes a great one to do so. So he's very good.
It's hard to believe it's 2018. You were the champion apprentice. I'm just wondering, you've, like a lot of people your age, you've lived some of your formative adult years during the pandemic, but there must be nothing like the roar and the celebration of a race like that. Was it incomparable to anything you've done before?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. It was something that I'll do well to feel again, I'd say. What a huge day. There's probably every jockey in the waiting room, and a lot of them have been waiting a lot longer than I have to experience what I've done in a few years. But it all goes down to to obviously Joseph and the whole team down here, knowing it's been a dream since day one. And I'll do very well to top it off, I think.
Obviously, a lot of people had backed him on course or whatever. It was 5-horse race. He was a nice price, but that must be some buzz, that roar, as you cross the line.
Yeah, I won't be forgetting it for a while. It was great, brilliant.
What was the reaction from the other jockeys? Because Ryan Moore is obviously riding a hot favourite. He's part of Aidan's team. Joseph's dad, obviously. Did he kind of congratulate you, or was he still sort of thinking about his own defeat?
Yeah, look, no, Ryan came up to me the minute I came back into the weighing room and congratulated me. You know, he's a top man. You know, a true professional. He's been there and done that. So, no, they did, in fairness to them. I'm sure they were probably a bit bitter in defeat, but look, we all lose some races, but thankfully we were winning.
And when you came in then to the winners' enclosure, did it feel like almost your Cheltenham, where there's a nice reception, the place is packed, and you've ridden a winner at the top level?
Of course. You know, back here at home and stuff on the big days, yeah, we have our big crowds and it's great to ride them winners, but probably everybody wants to get an Ascot winner or a Cheltenham winner, you know, or any entry winner. Those are the ones when everyone is tuned into watching and everyone is there to celebrate. And yeah, no, it was a huge thrill to walk back into the winners' enclosure to the crowd and reception, and it was just brilliant for everyone to look at what he has done, and such a good horse he is.
Just tell us about your background, Shane. As I mentioned at the start, Nathan, your brother, Prentice as well, rode a winner last night for Willie McCreary at Leopardstown. I imagine, actually before I get to that, I imagine it was like when they asked Nathan Collins during the week what was his phone like after he finished the game. I'm sure your phone was hopping on the night.
Yeah, it was buzzing. I probably haven't gotten through half the messages yet. You know, everyone has been huge support, and thankful to everyone who sent me messages. It's great to have that background behind you, and of course Nathan as well. He's been doing great for himself. He had a lovely winner last night in Leopardstown, and he was probably one of the first ones to be on the phone to me. And I was speaking to him as I was staying over the last 2 nights, and yeah, just talking through things. And it's great to have someone like that who's very close to you, and you know, you can talk about them things that you wouldn't talk to other people about. So yeah, he's a huge help, and yeah, no, it's brilliant.
Yeah, so there's a public apology from Shane to anyone he hasn't replied to yet, but you can imagine that he has been busy. What age is Nathan, and what's your racing background?
Nathan is 21 now, I'm pretty sure, and a racing background is just we always had horses at home. My dad was an ex-jockey, and you know, we had thoroughbreds hanging around a lot at the time, and managed to get into the pony racing side of things. Through there, then when we got older, my dad was head lad for Tommy Stack at the time, and myself and Nathan used to go in on weekends and holidays and ride out a lot or two, whether it was a lead horse or anything. And you know, just progressed and got more involved into the pony racing as we got older, and just loved the game, loved going racing. And yeah, it's just stepped up. Then my dad had moved jobs. He got offered a job at Joseph's, and I said I would come for the summer again just to change it up, and haven't looked back since. So yeah, that was the turn.
How many in your family?
Have just myself and Nathan as well.
Wow, so that must be a special upbringing in that there's only a year between you, allegedly anyway, if you actually know what age he is, and you basically had, like, did you have the same interest? Were you fighting over the same girls, or like were you just wanted to be like jockeys, both of you?
I don't know. I was always winning with ladies anyway.
Well, he doesn't have the right to reply here. We'll get him on next week. But yeah, so you wanted to whatever about that. You wanted to be jockeys anyway.
Yeah. No, it was brilliant that we're such close of age, because we were always same teams on the soccer matches and the GA, and you know, we were together doing everything. And the same, obviously, Nathan was just a year and a bit older than me now. He got his license, you know, a few months before me. So we've always been kind of side by side doing the same things every year. And yeah, no, it's brilliant.
And in terms of sport, then, what part of Tip are you from, and what sports were you into when you were younger?
So I'm from a small village called Ballyluby, just outside Cahir in Tipperary. And yeah, just the usual, you know, I was huge into the soccer myself, but then the whole way up along probably to secondary school, and I more or less was playing soccer a lot of the time. But yeah, that was it. And then trying to mix the pony races on a weekend with going to matches was a bit tricky late on, but we opted to go racing anyway.
How kind of like how good was pony racing for your development?
Very, very good. I had some nice contacts pony racing, and my dad and mum helped us a lot with being able to pick up a few ponies and horses along the way to bring racing, and we got a few nice winners, and you get huge amount of experience, and it's terrible the way pony racing is going at the moment with may possibilities of not getting insurance for the coming year, but hopefully that all gets sorted, and without it I think there'd be very less jockeys coming through.
Well, it'd be like, wouldn't it be a bit like expecting a lad to be a good senior hurler who's never hurled before?
Exactly, 100%. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, another thing about the pony racing thing, which I think really strikes true when you talk to ex-pony racing jockeys, is the role of parents, and the length and breadth of the country that they, I guess, had to go to collect you, to watch you, to stay and look after you and all that. And like, I guess your parents have had a key role in that for you as well.
Yeah, huge. Between playing GA and soccer matches midweek, and then probably having to drive to Kerry or up the north. It doesn't matter where the pony racing was, and they were shipping myself and Nathan around the country. So without them, we definitely wouldn't be here. They've been huge to our success, both of us. Yeah, and then probably trying to drive us out of bed for school on the Monday morning wasn't always easy either. But sure, we got through it anyways.
I think we can relate to that. I think there must be a documentary in you and Nathan then, because like, would you describe yourselves as rivals at all, or are you like completely, brothers in arms, or how does that work? Like, has there been many close finishes between the two of you? I remember watching earlier in the year, the Ledger winner, or sorry, the Gold Cup winner, Kyprios beating Search for a Song in the finish, a full brother beating a full sister. So what's it like when it happens with you guys?
Yeah, exactly. It's exciting, and as it happens, me and Nathan actually end up beside each other a lot of the time in the finish, and to be honest, 80% of the time I'm usually coming out the wrong side of the photo or the wrong side of the finish, so he always has the bragging rights over me whenever we do end up beside each other. But yeah, no, it's great. Look, if there was one man to beat me in a race, it would be him, and I'd be happy about it, but you're never happy losing a race. But yeah, no, look, we're competitive and we're close, it's mixed.
And how important is that move to Joseph's been for you, I suppose, and what's it like in that team? Anyone who has been to the yard can attest to the fact, like, so many people there, it's so busy but so friendly as well.
Yeah, look, it's obviously been the makings of probably what I've done to date. If I didn't do it, it probably, none of this I wouldn't be speaking to you, I'd say. But yeah, since day one, he's just been nothing but supportive, and the quality of horses and the range of horses he has down there, the range of jockeys is the quality is just brilliant, and he's so fair to everyone. He gives everyone their fair share of rides, so it's just brilliant.
And who looks after State Rest? I think there's always a story about that fella or that lass who's in the yard that basically loves this horse and cares for it like it's its child.
Yeah, MJ Doran is his name. He's a top lad. He's been riding him, I don't know, the last 2 years now, and he's travelled all over the world with him. He went to Australia when he went down, and he went to America with him, and France, back over to Ascot. He does everything with him. So I leave it, and I'm sure Joseph leaves it all up to MJ. So that most of the pressure is probably actually on him.
That's not the former jockey, is it?
Sorry,
that's not the former jockey, MJ, is it?
MJ used to ride amateur for Noel Mead a few years back.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably where you're getting his name from. Yeah.
So we're coming to the end now of our little bit with Shane. But just before we go, Shane, what are your aspirations for the rest of the season and your career?
Look, just to keep competing in these top class races, and obviously staying safe and riding winners is the main goal. But the place I'm in at the moment is brilliant, and I wouldn't change it for the world anyways.
Yeah, just to congratulate you again. Unbelievable ride. I'd say you'll rarely ride a better winner in any type of race, not to mind Group 1, and maybe we'll get your brother Nathan on next week to see if you were right about all those comments that you made.
No problem. I can do.
Top man, Shane.
Thanks very much, Johnny. Legend. Thank you.
Yeah, that was Shane Crosse. If you haven't had a chance to look back on it, I'm sure you'll be able to find it fairly easily. This is just, I thought of some of the riding at Ascot this week is why you love the sport. Ryan Moore in the Gold Cup, for one thing, would vie for one of the rides of the week, although his rivals might disagree. Shane was unbelievable. An unbelievable ride. Friday Night Racing is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit HRI.ie, hashtag every racing moment. After the break, we'll talk one of the more controversial incidents of the week with Richie Forristal.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit HRI.ie. Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit HRI.ie.
Yeah, you are welcome back. It's Friday Night Racing and Off the Ball, brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit HRI.ie or follow the Twitter account at HRI Racing, hashtag every racing moment. And this is Johnny Ward just standing in for Ger Gilroy. We now have the Irish editor of the Racing Post on, Richie Forristal, and just to explain why there was a race at Royal Ascot this week. If you have no interest in racing, I think this is quite compelling, because there's no easy solution to this, and I don't know if there's even a correct answer, but Richie Forristal is on to talk about the Norfolk Stakes. Richie, can you describe why you're on here today, and essentially why this race is such a hot topic in terms of what racing might do going forward?
Hi, Johnny. Yeah, sure. Look, I suppose it's not a new thing, Johnny, as you'll be well aware. This is an ongoing discussion that racing has been having over the years. But in the Norfolk Stakes yesterday, the Riddler won the race, first past the post. Possibly the best horse in the race, but not necessarily definitively so. Paul Hannigan, who was riding him for Richard Fahey, came from the outside of the track, and the horse drifted towards the stand-side rail. I suppose that came from the middle of the track, I should say, and drifted towards the stand-side rail. And Paul had his stick in the right hand, which, when a horse is drifting to the left, would be the incorrect hand, if you like, because you can't, if you're smacking the horse with the right, he might possibly run left. As Ruby Walsh would tell you, though, you steer with the reins, and by right, what Paul should really have done is put his two hands on the reins and steered the horse straight. He didn't do that. He kept pushing, because ultimately he and everybody else who rides around this part of the world know that as long as you basically don't knock a horse over, if you pass the post in front, the chances are you're going to keep the race. And he did interfere with and impede and intimidate 2, 3, maybe even 4 rivals along the way, including Crispy Cat in particular of Michael O'Callaghan's and Brave Nation of Michael Bell's. They were possibly the 2 worst affected by his manoeuvre across the track. So it's the kind of thing that a good rider can do accidentally on purpose, if you like. Suck up a ban. Paul got 10 days for it, knew he was going to get it, was happy to kind of take the yellow card, if you like, because, he was safe in the knowledge ultimately that he wasn't going to get thrown out. This isn't exclusive to racing. Look, I know people say it's the only game where the offended loses out. But, we have professional fouls in all sorts of sports.
Luis Suarez and so on.
Yeah, exactly. So but it is, when it's as blatant as this, that you basically take out 2 or 3 of your main rivals at the most crucial juncture of the race, it just looks poor and it's hard to defend.
Well, yeah. So you're making the comparison with sport, but I'm thinking here of, like, say if you're cycling in a bike at 40 kilometers an hour, and someone on a bike in front of you literally veers across 3 of you, right? Just veers across 3 of you. So I think we're all in agreement here, or most people are in agreement, that the horse should have been disqualified because it was reckless, dangerous riding, and the horse should be disqualified full stop, right? Are you in agreement with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is where it gets very tricky. So what happens then? Because you disqualify him, but the horse Wallbank, who finishes second past the post, is in no way, shape or form the second best horse in the race. So the stewards on one level are trying to give the result to the best horse in the race, which I think probably was the Riddler, in fairness. But notwithstanding that, Wallbank was not the second best horse in the race, yet he finished second past the post. So what is there's no ideal outcome to this, but what would yours be?
No, there isn't an ideal outcome, but if you have the rules in place that deter it in the first place, you won't have these incidents.
Okay.
As a matter of routine, you simply won't have them. The thing is, and the rules probably are there, and I commented on this today, like the rules ultimately are there for dangerous riding, but they're not being implemented, partially because I think there is a fear that if you find someone guilty of dangerous riding, I think there is a fear if something happened to someone else, that was impacted by it, that it would become if someone was litigiously minded, that they could use it to their, in a court of law. So I think that is a fear. There hasn't been a dangerous riding finding in Britain for 13 years. I think 2009 was the last one. So in yesterday's situation, I would say let Wall back race. Paul Hannigan do then? He'll steer to the right, won't he? He'll straighten his horse up and he won't let it happen. So straight away you have a deterrent. At the moment, there is no deterrent. And the point we haven't really touched on, which is the point that should underpin it all, and you kind of, touched on it a little bit when you mentioned the cycling, is that this comes down to safety. A yellow card in soccer for a bad tackle might be deemed kind of acceptable, whereas this is a highly dangerous sport. They're racing at 30 odd miles an hour, hard ground there yesterday. If one of those horses came down, the jockeys could be seriously hurt, or the horse could be seriously hurt. And yet there is no deterrent really to prevent these guys, as I say, accidentally on purpose causing interference, because they know they can get away with it. And we have a precedent, if you like, recently when Freddie Tilicki, got hurt badly in a fall at Wolverhampton, and Graham Gibbons was found at fault in the court of law. And yet the BAJ at the time, weren't minded to suspend him or find him guilty of any riding infringement. So the point here is this could end in tears before they kind of get their house in order and get to grips with what is a very dangerous situation. And there is a difference between tactical riding and clever race riding, shutting the door on someone when it's safe to do so, and riding in such a way where you're endangering others, which is ultimately what happened yesterday. No horse came down, but it was a very fine line. It won't take much for us to see something come down.
Yeah, this month is Pride Month, and to show its support, Tote is getting behind the Racing with Pride initiative. As part of this, Tote is sponsoring the Tote Sporting Racing with Pride maiden race at Down Royal Racecourse this evening. Follow hashtag Racing with Pride online to learn more and keep up to date with this month's activities. And Down Royal race again tomorrow. Cracking card up there. They're one of their big flat meets. Just getting back to this point then, like Paul Hannigan, obviously there was a bit of a split with Richard Fahey. He's always come across a very likeable bloke and so on and so forth. Is this entirely because it's Royal Ascot? Like, does he do this? Is he lost in the moment, or does he do this in a maiden in Catterick?
Not necessarily, no. But it's worth it here. You're going to win the race. You're going to get a short holiday. It's worth it. Would he do the same in Catterick? Quite possibly not. For a $5,000 maiden or something, why would you? You'd straighten up. You might have Ascot 10 days down the line. You don't want to miss that. So it's a cost benefit analysis, isn't it? If it's worth it, you ride accordingly. And the point worth making here is that the best riders ride to the rules in each jurisdiction. So Ryan Moore there's no one better at this than Ryan Moore. Look at his Irish Champion Stakes ride on St. Mark's Basilica last year. Moore is one of the best riders we've seen in the last 30 or 40 years. And he knows when he's in Ireland or Britain, he can push the boundaries a bit and he can drift across the track and hang on to the race, as he did on St. Mark's Basilica last year at Leopardstown, when he impeded Tarnawa right across the straight, beat her less than a length, but kept the race. In America, Ryan will ride straight and through because he knows if he doesn't, he'll get chucked out. So the best riders ride to the law of the land, and that's what Paul Hannigan did yesterday. Okay,
so are you more inclined to think the Americans have it right, even the French have it right, or in fairness in this jurisdiction and in Britain, they've generally tried to be true to what we think was the best horse in the day, but I don't think that has anything to do with dangerous riding.
No, I mean, I tell you what, like in France now, they're more. The rules have changed the last few years, and they implement a similar kind of system to what we do. What I've always said about this, it's not complicated. It's really not. The Americans, you could say, maybe take it to an extreme. My point on this is, if it's intentional, and if there's doubt about the result. So if a jockey pulls a horse across one way or another, impedes another horse, and if there's a doubt that they were on the best horse in the race, throw him out. If, like yesterday, you accidentally on purpose let it happen, and you don't take corrective action, and there's a doubt, throw him out, okay? If a horse veers dramatically at the last minute and there's very little you can do about it, you know, that's what I would term a racing incident.
And that's
unless it's blatant that the horse that was impeded would have won, then fair enough, you could let him hold the position. But the point about this is, if it's intentional, or if the jockey has a chance to correct the horse and doesn't, then you chuck him out. Once if the margin is anyway short at all, you've got to throw him out, because this isn't going to get any better otherwise.
Richie's also on because he's rather a former jockey, so he's well versed to talk about this. Any incidences in your career in terms of being involved in or a victim of dangerous riding where you're, I guess your heart is pounding and you're like, this is not good?
Yeah, no, look, there's nothing maybe relevant to this, shall I say, but I mean, it's such a dangerous game, and to for this to be happening as regularly as it is now, and as it's become, for every big meeting, it's a talking point these days. And they're not cars. They can't race in lanes. They do veer and manoeuvre, and you have to allow for that. But they need to act stronger on it. The rules are there. They need to be stronger on it, because I'll go back to the point I just made. If a jockey doesn't make an effort to correct a horse, or if they intentionally manoeuvre in such a way as to impede another horse, there has to be action to deter riders from doing it, because it's just too dangerous to carry on the way it is.
And if Paul Hannigan comes back into the weighing room after that, is he treated as a pariah for a while, or are the other jockeys kind of livid with him? I mean, there are at least 3 or 4 jockeys, maybe 3 jockeys anyway, who have right to be annoyed about what happened there. But what's it like in the weighing room after a race like that?
Yeah, he'll get some choice words thrown at him by the lads that were affected, impeded by it. But that'll blow over very quick, and the consensus in there will be, well, I'd probably done the same myself. Because the rules are there and they allow it. They cater for it. They basically encourage it, because if you're not going to get thrown out, why would you straighten the horse? You're going to guarantee yourself victory by letting it drift. If you know what I mean? Was he the best horse in the race? This is the point we were discussing at the start. He probably was. But Paul Hannigan has just made sure that he's won by stopping the runs of Crispy Cat and Brave Nation. There was. You have to. It's the thing is, it's very hard to be conclusive about any of this, and that's what the stewards will say. They couldn't be sure that he improved his position as a result of his actions. But you look at Brave Nation, I thought in particular, he was staying on well, and then he got intimidated, and his run stopped straight away, and he didn't get going again. It was a 5 furlong race. If you stop a horse in their tracks, they're not going to get going again that late in the day. So you couldn't say definitively that Brave Nation would have won, or Crispy Cat. So you can't. They straight away, the stewards will take the easy option and say, look, we can't throw him out because we can't be sure. But you can't quantify the damage that's been done, in terms of stopping those horses' momentum. It's impossible to quantify it.
And I know things happen very quickly in flat racing, and I'm not trying to say Paul Hannigan deliberately tried to endanger anyone or whatever. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but it's nearly 20 years since Sean Cleary passed away. We've had Freddie Tilitsky getting paralysis, obviously, in that incident. George Baker seriously injured. Fran Berry had to retire after a bad kind of incident on the all-weather as well. I've often made the point, Richie, rightly or wrongly, that I think flat racing is more dangerous in some respects, because you don't expect to fall, and if you fall, you're going at such a speed, often on rattling quick ground. It's just like that, and that's what makes this incident kind of hard to watch, because the dangers, as you say, are so great.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. The falls in the flat are invariably worse, and on the all-weather they're a lot worse, because you land on and you don't roll on the all-weather. You hit the ground and you jar, and you'll flip then. But it's if you go back even to the Champion Hurdle this year, funny enough, to use a jumping example, after the Champion Hurdle, I should say, Rachel Blackmore got a horrible fall crossing the path, and when she hit the path, she bounced up. Normally she would roll in that situation, and it was a horrible fall. So the synthetic surfaces and just the plain sand surfaces, they're not pleasant to fall on. And as you say, the speed they're going, they're not, they're going to hit the ground with a lot more momentum, velocity, and they don't roll because they don't have the time to get their body set for it the way you do over jumps. Obviously you can get an absolute perler over jumps as well, but if you're going a lot slower, and you can usually get your body in such a position as to roll as you're coming down. So we've seen bad falls in both disciplines, as we all know, but yeah, I mean, it's frightening to see it on the flat because it happens so fast and they fall so hard.
Do you think this could be the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of regulation? No,
I don't, because we're talking about this the whole time, and I don't know what it's going to take. This has been going on for years. We've been writing about it for years. I don't know what it's going to take. It's frightening to think really what they need to do to change it. And they came out yesterday and tried to defend what sounded like the indefensible. So I don't know where they go or how they review it. And it's not to suggest that Ireland has a moral high ground here, because similar incidents happen here. What I would say is they are quicker to go down the dangerous riding route. There has been a number of dangerous riding bans here, so they don't have the same fear of using that or deploying that device that they seem to do in Britain, which is somewhat encouraging, but there just seems to be a complete aversion to using it in Britain for some reason. I don't know what it's going to take to change it at this stage, because I've been writing columns for over 10 years, and I've been writing about this topic as long as I've been writing columns.
Thanks for your time, Richie.
Cheers, Johnny. Yeah,
that was Richie Forristal, Irish editor of the Racing Post, talking about, I think, a very, very serious incident at Royal Ascot that, despite Richie's despondency, I think it does need to be looked at seriously right now as to what the authorities can do for this in the future. Myself and John Duggan will be in the Silk and Thomas Kildare town next Tuesday. That is June 21st, and there's still a few tickets left if you'd like to join us. We'll be looking ahead to the Dubai Duty-Free Irish Derby Festival at the Curragh Racecourse. We'll be chatting to legends of the game, Irish Derby legends, Michael Canan, John Murtagh and Seamus Heffernan, for an in-depth Irish Derby discussion and analysis, and what it takes from horse and jockey to win the iconic race. See otbsports.com/events to register. Friday Night Racing on Off the Ball is brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie. And finally, the tote as well, which I mentioned earlier. This month is the Pride Month, and show its support. Tote are getting behind Racing with the Racing with Pride initiative. As part of this, Tote is sponsoring the Tote, supporting Racing with Pride maiden race down Royal Racecourse this evening. Follow # Racing with Pride online to learn more and keep up to date with this month's activities.
Friday Night Racing
on Off the Ball.
Brought to you by Horse Racing Ireland. Love every racing moment. Visit hri.ie.